Live. Hello. Hello, everyone. This is your host and creator, April Patterson of Respectfully April. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Delvin McCray, who is a fashion icon. I'm going to just say it. Like, in my opinion, you are. I know. But that's just how I feel. Delvin McCray, he is a celebrity fashion designer. He's a native of Chicago, and I am super excited to have him on. A little fun fact is the way that I met Delvin is that my daughter went to Columbia and graduated from Columbia College, and so Delvin is also an alum of Columbia College, and so my daughter Alexandria actually interned, was a part of Delvin's internship program, and so super excited to have you on today, Delvin. Thank you so much for saying yes to the request. And so, why don't we just jump into it? Why don't we just kick this thing off with tell us about you. Who is Delvin McCray?
Well, thank you so much, April, for even asking. Greatly appreciate it. And I'm excited to discuss the things that we're going to go over. So, for starters, I am Delvin McCray. I'm from Chicago, born and raised on the South Side in Inglewood. Family of four.
Inglewood. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. And I would describe myself as an artist first before anything, and or a creator. So I have multiple talents aside from designing, but I just chose clothing as my main medium to pursue my passion. So I do dance, I write poetry, I draw, I paint. I try to do a little music, but that's like the closet thing that we don't talk about in public.
Yeah.
But
We don't talk about it in public, but we're going to do
uh,
it today on YouTube. Okay.
try to figure. But I've after high school, I actually was dancing in high school, and then it was a battle between my art teacher and my dance teacher, and
Okay.
one wanted me to go to Joffrey Ballet Studio, and the other wanted me to go to college for art. So I was like, I'm scared of dance, like to try to pursue that because it's, in my opinion, it's much more difficult to land a gig with that. So I went ahead into fine arts, and after a year in that, being told when to draw just wasn't my speed, so I switched to. I also got cold feet pursuing art, so I switched to
Hmm.
film. It was still creative, but a little bit more serious. I felt like it was more of a guaranteed job. And then I didn't like that full time, so I switched to nursing because I was also working as a direct support professional,
Hmm.
basically assisted living with people that had mental or physical disabilities.
Yeah.
And I thought I wanted to, help, and I did love helping others in need, but I thought, maybe I could get a job here, guaranteed job after college, and then go back for fashion. And I said in the terminology class, and after the words were just going and going and going, I said to myself, "This is boring."
Yeah.
And if I'm
I don't want
possibly
to
going
do
to fail
this.
at something, exactly, if I'm possibly going to fail at something that I don't enjoy doing, then I would rather fail while pursuing something that I actually would enjoy and have fun while doing that. Even if the
Mhm.
failure happens, it didn't matter. So I switched. I dropped everything. My whole life just dropped it. Left. I was at Northern Illinois University. Left DeKalb. Came back to Chicago. I literally had to start over completely. And I went to Columbia and chose
Wow.
fashion, and here I am. So I did
Wow,
something right.
wow. Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. That you understood very early on that in order to be successful at the thing, you absolutely must love it. There's absolutely no reason why you should live your life pursuing a craft or anything like that, and it's something that you just don't want to wake up every day and do for free. We hear a lot of
hmm
speakers on various platforms talk about that. So that's really cool that you developed that and understood that early on. So you talked about your failures and stuff like that. So let's just jump in because we'll talk about your challenges later. But let's just dive in and when did you exactly realize that you wanted to be an entrepreneur and a fashion designer?
have you ever experienced when you want something and you may not necessarily have a full understanding of what that actually is? Have you ever had that
Yeah.
experience before?
Yes.
So basically, when I went to college, there were two things that I wanted in life.
Okay.
I wanted to be one of the guys with this, red and white striped candy cane twirling around and moving their shoulders in the Greek land. And I
Okay.
had no idea like about like Greek life or anything until later. And I knew that I always wanted to have my version of baby fat, and I wanted to mimic Russell Simmons. I wanted to
Oh,
be like that man,
wow. Russell
given
Simmons. That's
yeah.
not bad. That's not a bad inspiration at all. Wow.
Yeah, so I always wanted to own my own company and ultimately my own clothing line. So that was he's been my inspiration, my driving force for since I can remember actually because I was still in elementary school, I believe,
Wow.
when that was
Shout
hot.
out to Russell Simmons. I am
Yeah,
actually hoping I'm going to tag him when we're on YouTube to see if he watches this,
yeah.
because I'm sure that he inspires so many people. So that is really really cool. So from there, okay, so you had this inspiration. So what at what point, like, did you have moments within your childhood where, aside from, like you said, the red and white cane and the and all of the things and the fraternity and all of that, but do you remember at all being a child, like a little boy thinking, okay, this is kind of what I think I want to do? Did you know enough about fashion? Did fashion kind of grab you at a younger age? Do you remember at all?
Sadly, I don't really remember too much of my childhood,
Okay.
but I will say that like my high school years and like the last of my elementary school, like seventh and eighth grade, when it came to picking the graduation outfit, um, any like photos for like picture day, I always did something different. Always did
Okay.
something extra.
Hmm.
So when I look back, I'm a hoarder of things. Well, not a lot of things, but I keep like sketches and pictures that I drew when I was a child. So I
Okay.
still have them from what the early 2000s. So one day I was flipping through and I found like a stack of sketches, about 20 sketches, and I was
Okay.
sketching T-shirt designs, and I completely forgot. So I
Wow.
was doing those things, without realizing what I was actually doing. And then when I grew up, because I consider myself a late bloomer when it comes to fashion, I
Okay.
wasn't, straight out the womb. Oh yes, I want to be a
Yeah.
designer.
Yeah.
No,
And it does,
it,
yeah.
yes, it came out as I learned, more specifics on certain industries, and I was like, that's it. I'm like that's the thing. I don't know how I gravitated to it, but I guess the only way that would make sense to me is that it was always something that I knew. I just probably didn't know how to articulate what I
That's the
wanted.
thing. Hmm.
So once I found it, I ran full speed ahead, didn't look back, and yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, do you come from a large family? I know that this is not, but I'm wondering, like, where in your family do you come from a family of creatives or?
My immediate family is very small and no
Okay.
one's artsy. I'm like a wild
Wow.
card. I'm the first dancer. I'm
Okay.
the first creative, especially to this degree. But through my great cousins, I know like Chubby Checker is my cousin, and
Okay.
I have a cousin that's an artist. That he's a
Okay.
rapper. He's around
Okay.
my age, and I found out that my great grandmother she sewed
Okay.
fixing things and making things for the younger kids and stuff. So I found it out after she passed. But as far as
Hmm.
being creative, that's the only
Extent.
thing that I'm aware of. Oh, my father, he was a real good artist, so
Oh,
he drew a
good.
lot.
Okay, so it definitely it is within your, I don't know, DNA, in terms of,
Oh,
because
my uncles, they're like there's this really popular footworking squad called 187 in Chicago, and
okay.
that's my uncle's group. And I was like, oh,
Oh.
didn't know that until after I graduated college, and because I danced as well with a company that's Chicago based, and we crossed paths with multiple different dance teams throughout the
Yeah.
city with competition and stuff like that. So kind of like dance royalty
Okay,
indirectly.
I see, I see you. That is so cool. That is super cool. I think that creatives are just amazing individuals. I don't have a create. I say it all the time. I don't have. I love fashion, but I mean to design something, no. Like I need
Yeah.
the inspiration. I need to pictures to put it together, but to actually create something. So, I'm always fascinated by how you can take a piece of paper and just start sketching a
Hmm.
vision. And that is just super, super gifted. You're very gifted in that way. And so following you and watching the things that you do from afar, I've just really, I'm like, go, Delvin, go. That is so cool. Like you are a sought after. Like you are sought after. People be like, I'm like, you want to have something made by Delvin, honey? A Delvin McCray? It ain't gonna be cheap.
I think it is. It
It's
is.
the price point. Get ready, get your money ready, right? So let's talk about some of the challenges within this space. What would you say have been on your journey challenges that you faced within this space as a fashion designer?
I would say almost everything.
Mm,
It. I mean, I don't want to sound negative, but
mhm,
it's such a steep learning curve.
mhm.
Considering especially my background and my knowledge base from home, there's a lot of
Okay.
things that I was unaware of, from credit to
Mm,
business to everything I learned. It was through mentorship, schooling, apprenticeships, and did I say internships? Internships if I didn't say internships,
you
but
did not. You said apprenticeships.
so both of those,
Okay.
and literally just hours and hours, weeks and months of practice.
Wow.
So I will say trying to sell to my own people
Mm.
was a challenge.
Let's touch
Learning.
on that. Let's touch on that because I know our people, like, we love to look fabulous. Like, fashion is, we set trends, right? I
Mhm.
mean, in the Black community. And we want that. But the pain, even as an entrepreneur, I'm a Black entrepreneur, they want the great. They got, Maserati taste. And not that they don't think that your work is not valuable, but they do
It's the
try to,
respect
it's
level.
the respect level that I think they struggle with. So let's talk about that. How has that been for you? And how do you navigate those waters?
When I first came out the gates, I was solely trying to design for my people, the people I know best,
Right.
my indigenous brothers and sisters, and they didn't take to me because I didn't
Mm,
have the reputation. What I came to learn is, as a community, we suffer from PTSD, is
mhm.
what I would call it, post traumatic slave disorder, and there are things that's passed down generationally from traumas to um, different types of internal issues that results into self-hate, self-loathing, and wanting to be something else outside of them so bad to the point where they're cutting and pressing and perming their hair, bleaching their
Wow.
skin, and trying to, they're chasing after someone else's definition of beauty, and at the same time burying or suppressing their own, not knowing or appreciating themselves and not having that self-love. So that journey continues to this day. It's gotten a little bit better because I had to grow a backbone. I was in the beginning, I was a major pushover. I didn't understand my self worth. I was
Wow.
undercharging. There was times where I would look over a prom season when I first started doing prom, and I would look at the numbers, and I would have like my first prom season. I think I did $12,000, and I literally had a 500 in the bank. Why? Because I wasn't charging. I would
Huh.
undercharge on a garment and buy the most expensive fabric, given the quality because I have that
Oh,
much integrity, but I was cutting myself short. And, it was a lot of things on the business side that I had no idea what I was doing. So it was a steep learning curve. And I know that I chose a difficult path. I know how hard it was, but I
yeah.
did not want to work 15 years for someone else, hoping and praying that they would open their doors to me and teach me valuable things that I would use on my own to then branch out. So I chose the hard way. And,
Wow.
being self made and building from the ground up because the first designer, they did it. The first company,
Gotcha.
they did it. So I could do. It's not impossible. It's just going to take a hell of a lot more work, which I was fine with because I come from a workaholic family. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's when you're moving in your purpose,
Hmm.
it's completely different than working a job and
Yeah.
having to go through those same challenges. But aside from the customer, learning and understanding marketing, understanding my customer, all the details, like the way that you know yourself, your likes, dislikes, age, income, what do you do with your disposable income, what percentage goes towards this, do you value cars more than clothes, like all of those things I've learned over the years, and then actually learning how to design because I would say for the longest, the majority, I would say more than half of the time I've been in business, I didn't actually know how to design. And
Really?
it's yeah, if you
It
notice, if
doesn't
you
come off that way, at least to me. Now, again, I did say I am
it,
not.
I would I would say designing like there's a difference from making one-off pieces for people than
Okay.
making a collection, an assortment of garments that
Oh,
encompasses and touches on many different stages in a person's life from day to night, special occasion to everyday, and just having a flowing inventory of goods that
wow.
sits well together, that complements each other, that allows for styling and mixing and matching. And someone can come to you, and you got someone walking in because they want something to lounge around, and someone walking in to have a special occasion, someone walking in they have a business meeting to go to, they want something for work. So, you
Right.
know, being able to encompass all of that cohesively and understanding how to design for different sections, because the company isn't just all it's just not a one big company. You have, more of the urban section, which like the pieces that you see on the runway when you don't see them in the store, those
Right.
are different types of collections within the same collection, but different groups of the products that were made
Okay.
and designed.
Okay.
So understanding all of those things
Hmm.
and effectively running a fashion business, all of those, it was, I mean, I'm still learning it. You're going to be learning to the day you die, but the first steps I fell and hit my face a lot of times. But as my mentor says, still sharp and still, and just gotta keep moving, pressing forward. So
And you are doing that, and you make it look so effortlessly. Like you, I know you like. Well, listen, it
it's
is
been
not.
some days. I will tell you that not even just fashion, but being an entrepreneur, it will it will peel you back like layers. And it's been days I've sat rocking in corners like
So you
weeks.
feel exposed. You felt exposed, like in terms of um, areas of weaknesses where you're like, okay, whoa, I need to really toughen up in this area, or I need to step my game up in this area. And you've learned a lot about yourself in this process.
Yeah, when you're an entrepreneur and you have a business, you are on display
Hmm.
7 days a week, 24/7. It doesn't stop. There's no
Right.
off switch to when people are viewing your business, criticizing or critiquing. So you have to put your best foot forward at all times.
Right.
And my thing is, it's the effort that counts.
Hmm.
If you're showing that you're trying to improve, because you've seen startup companies when they first start, and then once they made it to the big Fortune 500 companies, how they move and operate is very different. They change a lot of things each year. Maybe their website got better, or they switched to a
Hmm.
different platform, or they got a new cash register, or they switched from the regular kiosk to a self checkout kiosk. Like,
Yeah.
it's everyone. You have to give people the time, and give them the area to grow, because no one's standing stagnant. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
as long as you're trying, that's what would sit well with me.
Hmm. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. All of it's good, but let's get into the good stuff. You are a celebrity fashion designer. You have worked with some amazing, some of my favorite people,
Hmm.
and you have styled them. So, can we just talk about that? I do also want to get into, you know, how you were on Project Runway. I want to talk about that process and how, you were able to even be picked as a finalist and on in all of the things. So let's start with who you've had the pleasure of
Work
designing,
with.
working with.
Um, I have designed for a lot of my clients came through working on TV shows. After I finished Project Runway, I went on to work on last season of Empire, the first season of Legendary, and I recently finished. I think it was the fourth or the sixth season of The Neighborhood,
Mhm.
and little pieces for films here and there, and then I did some gig work with concerts. So I'll just shoot off everybody that I can remember right now: Terrence Howard, Taraji, Nicole Ari Parker, Gabrielle Sidibe, um, the Yaz, um, who else?
Look, I'm
Cedric,
like,
the entertainer, um, Teacher Campbell, um, and my last In Vogue. That was a big one. Like, I like
in
old school. Yeah, I've worked with In Vogue a couple of times.
wow.
And then my last one was Patty LaBelle.
Yes, wow. What was that like? I mean,
Like
were
working with your
you
grandma. She's just, I will say, in my opinion, the new school
Yeah.
celebrities are completely
Mhm.
different from the old school. The
Mhm.
old
Mhm.
school, they have class, they have integrity,
Okay, yeah. Okay.
and
Wow.
and that's not a lot of people have integrity these
Yeah.
days,
And
and
that's not
especially.
necessarily a diss. I think that's just where we are as a society, you know. Wow. So, and I know I've heard so many, I've not ever had the pleasure of meeting, Miss Patty LaBelle. I would love the opportunity to have that. But I've consistently people say the same thing about her. She is just sweet,
Sweet as
nice,
pie.
sweet as pie, polite, you know, she's a diva, but she doesn't have that diva mentality. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's not
so that,
disrespectful or
yeah,
infringing on your rights as a human being. So
right, yeah, that's really really cool. Wow, that's so cool. So let's talk about Project One Way, and congratulations to your success. Like, I am,
thank you.
you know, super proud of you. And I when my daughter Alex would talk about you, and I'm like, wow, okay. And she was so pumped, like, Mom, I was hired to work with Delvin and I didn't know you at first. And I was like, okay, that's great. You know, but then I
Mm,
saw your designs and I saw, I would kind of check you out. I was like, okay, Alex, this is so cool. And the fact that you want to help others be successful, like, that says a lot about who you are as a person. That says a lot. So let's talk about Project Runway and that process. Like, can you walk us from start to finish on that?
um, it started with a process of applying, and I applied actually. I believe it was 2 years prior,
Okay.
and didn't it didn't even send me a denial email back. It was just flat out ignore. So second time coming around, I really wasn't too into it because I'm focused on the craftsmanship, like the
Okay.
actual craft of sewing, like constructing garments, because I'm not just throwing stuff together, slapping the label and pushing it to people. So I was kind of on the fence, and then the production person that I was working with, she was like, "Come on, just go ahead and do it. You never know what can happen." And everything. I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I went in and fully submitted everything, and then a couple months later, I got the call, and I was just like, "Oh, well,
Uh-oh.
okay." So it really didn't hit me until I was there. But I'm not one of those people to get super super excited over the like the lights, fame, and celebrity stuff like that. So it's very because I think I look at everybody as human. We're both the
Right.
same. So
Yeah.
your talent has been put on display for the world to see. Respect to you for that. Great. I just don't. You're not like we're still humans. Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
bleed the same. So
Exactly. Yeah.
after going through that, went on the show, and it was interesting. I learned a lot because the last time I received the critique was 3 years before that when I graduated, and after that I was just all up on my work myself, and I didn't get any feedback. So I'm not growing. I'm not being
Mm,
criticized. I'm not being pushed further, and nothing's being questioned because I'm like it's just me. And when you're all
mhm.
up on your work and you don't get to take a step back or have a second person's opinion, you won't be able to see certain things because it's your stuff. So
Mhm.
you look at it a different way, and then when you have another pair of eyes with different perceptions and everything that will give you advice or critiques, it will help you grow. So I got a lot of advice from Brandon. I was scared to use color. I used it on the show. I was scared to use prints. I used it on the show. And they noticed, and this is a perfect example. They saw what my signature was without me seeing what my signature was. And then Brandon told
Wow.
me, he's like, tailoring and color and prints, he's like, that's it. Stick to what you know.
Wow.
Stay in your lane. And I
So
was just
cool.
like, I
Oh.
was like, yeah, that makes. I like that makes sense. And then
Oh.
right when the episode I got eliminated on, that's when like I felt like the gates in my head just opened up, and I just had it was just things just flowing out, and I was like,
Wow.
damn it. Now
Right.
I'm not there, but everything happens for a reason, and
Mhm.
I got what I was supposed to get out of that experience. And when I came home, life clicked play. Well, actually, never stopped, but we weren't allowed to communicate. We were cut off from the outside world for the
Mm.
time that we were filming, which
Mhm.
was detrimental extremely to me because I basically lost my first business.
Mm.
Things being on autopilot and having to pay up bills for a certain amount of time before you go to film and not being able to call or communicate with anybody about nothing. Um, Everything like accounts when it's negatives, bills lapse when it's a default because I wasn't able to tend to it because I was taken away from
Yeah.
all communication. So
Wow.
I actually lost my first company, and I had to start a new one upon finishing up that. So
Okay. Wow.
it was
And so I'm sure that was, like you said, it was devastating. You were like,
it
"Oh my
was
God, yeah."
yeah.
And so would you do it again?
Do
The
what? Being
experience?
on.
Mhm.
If I had it, I would, but no, I wouldn't.
Mm. Mm. Mhm. Mhm. And I
Because
think
one,
go ahead. Go
a
ahead.
lot of things that people, especially in like anything involving like social media or TV or something like that, people get
Mhm.
caught up in the hype, the buzz, and I like to provide two examples that I always bring up. TLC and Tony Braxton filed bankruptcy when they were at the height of their
Mm.
career. They were
Mm.
broke. Why? Because their
Mm.
deals were messed up. Just because you're popular doesn't mean that you're getting paid. And I would
Wow.
prefer to have my bills paid than everybody know my name
I know that's
because
right.
I
You
can't pay
better
my
let
bills.
them know.
I can't, and it's just the
Yeah.
reality of the
Wow.
situation. And it's like it's nice to be popular, but
Yeah.
popular does not equate to $1 in your pocket.
And
So
oftentimes I say, Delvin, that people think that saying, that owning a business, being an entrepreneur, it's like it's a buzz, it's sexy, it's status. But
mm,
if you don't have any money in the bank, like that means absolutely nothing, right?
yeah,
And so as a new business, so I mean, you've been in business now for how long?
I have been running my business 6 years. Yep.
Wow. Okay. And are you a solopreneur?
What's the solopreneur?
Meaning like it's a one man show. Do you have a team? Do
Oh,
you
I have a team, a small team. I'm not doing things completely by myself like I was at first. Given
Mhm.
the pandemic, it wiped my entire team clean like instantly.
Wow.
It took what, a day, and everybody was gone.
Wow.
So I'm basically rebuilding, and I'm still rebuilding from that, which is kind of crazy considering that it happened 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah. So currently I have a small team, but
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
looking to expand.
Oh,
So.
good. Okay, that's good. And do you foresee yourself um s- staying based in Chicago? Like what are your thoughts with that?
So I think headquarters will remain in Chicago, like the main
Mhm.
base of operations, but I will open up other locations. And yeah, I'll keep it home because there's a lot of services. The reason why I offer the services aside from just my clothing line, small scale manufacturing, brand building, and
Mhm.
things like that for other businesses is because
Mhm.
these things are not available at all really here,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it's hard to find it even in the places like New York, or if you do find it, if it's minimums that you can actually work around, are they understanding of you being a small or starting budding business.
Right.
And I kind of like meet certain people where they are. I've built a few companies thus far, one outside of fashion, but the other ones, they were all clothing brands that I helped build.
Cool. And I just forgive me if this question is like if it's ignorant. I'm just asking. Are you in like do you have your stuff is so high end? I'm thinking no, but I don't want to guess. Are you in are you on the rack? Like are you in stores anywhere
I
or
am not.
okay.
Actually, I'm prepping to go into Saks because they did reach out to me in the middle of the pandemic, but I couldn't do anything then. But my brand, um, I
That is so
encompass
cool.
I encompass two price points.
Okay.
So I have the designer and the bridge price point. So, and I thought about those things. Like, I'm not here to price gouge my customers. I'm here to celebrate my customer and make people feel good with
Mhm.
whatever story I'm telling. But it's all done through love. So I can't I personally wouldn't feel right overcharging for something, well, wrongfully charging for something, or putting just slapping some crazy price on it. Like it doesn't do anything for me. So as
Mhm.
long as I'm hitting my certain percentage markup as my company, you know, that's what the price is going to be. So I have like now I released, I did a complete rebrand, and now I have like embroidered T-shirts that's like 140. But even if it's too much for someone, like, oh, it's too much, there'll be a sale. There'll be
Yeah,
promotions,
exactly.
like
Just
things
chill.
outsource. So and I'm also looking into even more affordable pieces, like more everyday pieces, like crew neck T-shirts,
Mhm. Mhm.
like slim fit, nice Pima cotton for like $60. So I'm like, I
That's
think that
that's really cool. Yeah.
yeah, opening up more doors. But as I'm growing,
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
never gonna stop
awesome.
growing. So things develop and things also change. I'm not one of those stuck up old businesses like been around for 80 to 100 years, and they have these chairmen that are very old, stubborn, and stuck in their ways. And you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But I'm very flexible, and being a
Yeah.
entrepreneur, it would behoove you to be flexible because the pandemic completely shifted my entire business.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
and if I
honey,
was I'm not going to change, I would have been
right.
out of here.
A
So,
long time ago. No, that's really, really good. Like, I want to commend you for your business acumen and understanding the fundamentals of actually developing a business that is sustainable. Because with a thought process of, you don't want to be flexible and you want to kind of be rigid, there is no growth in that space.
hmm
So kudos to you for learning that early on. What about, okay, so I'm a full figure girl, honey. What is the talk? What's the tea on that? Are you thinking
my
about,
my sizes
or even
for when
big and tall, like big and tall men? Like, what's the thought? What are you thinking
I
about?
I haven't gotten into the big and tall, but my sizes, plus size is not an issue. My women's
Okay.
sizes go up to a size 20 or
Okay.
18, and anything outside of that, then I'm thinking of how I haven't come across too many that they usually, if someone's past the size 18, they're usually getting custom. They don't come to shop off the rack,
Right.
which is completely fine. I have no issue working with plus size men or
Love it.
women.
Love it.
So most of my customers, real people, are sizes 10 and up.
Yes, we
So
are.
so I know like
Yes, we are.
but yeah, I've considered all of that because I've been on both sides. I've been the customer and I've been the sales associate. And I've been
Yeah.
the manager. I know I have a full scope, and I'm on the side now of the
Yeah.
person that's the company that's creating these things and what goes into that. And it's like, well, when you start thinking about certain prices, they kind of have to be that. And if it's anything other
Mhm.
than that, I have full, complete knowledge that they're most likely utilizing slave labor, which I completely am
Wow.
against. I'm not,
Mm-mm.
you know, I'm not going to aid a company in paying an employee in another
Yeah.
country $8 a month to make my pieces at $5 a piece so that I can sell it for $30. I'm sorry. The fast fashion world, as much as a lot of them claim that they're so ethical, they're not. When they get caught, they'll get their fine, but they're
Wow.
not, you know.
Wow.
Um, and then you have companies that are luxury brands, and luxury simply means we slap whatever price on it head. It does not have to make sense. And it's like
Mm. The
you're
math,
it's literally
your math is not mathing. Let's,
it's
right? You know what I mean? Yeah. Wow.
so when you have someone with integrity, a lot of things I'm not going to condone. And when
Mhm.
people challenge me on it, it's like, well, there's a documentary called "The True Cost" when that building collapsed in Bangladesh with those
Mhm.
workers, and it was a manufacturing company, and they explained how the workers tried to let the management know that the foundation of the building had a giant, crack in it. And they went in, locked the door, and beat the women with rulers and tools and stuff
Oh.
so they would keep working. And they couldn't see their kids maybe once a month because they stayed with their parents a town over while they worked for $8 to $10 a month. I just can't. I can't.
Wow.
So when people are buying these clothes that are super cheap, you're buying into it. And then you may say, oh well, you don't know that. Yes, because Zara got caught when their workers started sewing notes in theirs. And it's like it shouldn't take
Oh,
you know it shouldn't
what?
take getting caught to realize this is a real thing. It's happening. Like labor isn't cheap for a reason. There's certain
Yeah.
places where it is cheap because they have a proper business structure where they have the team, the workforce, and the speed.
Hmm.
But other than that, if you don't, you're literally buying into slave labor.
Oh, I had no idea. I had no idea. I mean, I know, well, I, two of my daughters are really big on, you know, buying US based,
Mm,
um, and I get that. So it makes sense, and it's so sad. It's just so sad, that the child labor and all of the things, the bad things that we know are happening in other countries. And
we have slave
eight
labor still in the
dollars
United
a
States.
month.
We still have slave labor here. We have slave
Yeah.
labor in New York, and I mean it's on the hush hush, but it's there.
Shut up.
Hmm.
Huh. Wow. That is something else. Blew my mind with all of that information. That was an educational moment, and so I need to look into that a little bit further because I do want to learn a little bit more. It just makes sense, for why it's so important to do your research on the products that you're purchasing.
Hmm.
To make sure that you are not adding to that impact negatively. Like that's you're actually helping them employ someone for $8 a month.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is, besides the fame and the accolades and the money, what is the why behind your hustle? Like why do you do what you do?
I love it because I am moving in my purpose. So when you're doing that, and they say, when you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work. When you're moving in your purpose, it doesn't feel like work. And if you're trying to find out if this is my purpose, ask yourself, would you do this unpaid?
I hear
I
so
would
many people
because
saying that. Hmm.
I've done this for the first what 2 to 3 years unpaid, and I kept
Wow.
going. I'm like something's gonna give, but
Yeah.
I love creating. I love telling a story and getting you know getting it outside of me and
Yeah.
being able to watch you know what like I am literally creating things with my hands.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it's just like oh my
I
gosh,
did
but
that. I did that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's really
moving on
cool.
purpose.
That is really, really cool. All right, so what's next? What's next for you? Where I know
I'm
you mentioned Saks. I know you mentioned can you talk
mm,
about that a little bit more? Like is that how soon is that how close is that
well.
to happening? Or you can't
It
talk about that.
depends. I can.
Okay.
I haven't sent over my because department stores they shop a season or two
Mhm.
ahead, so I
Mhm.
would have to send them within their buying calendar. Send them my lookbook during the times that they're buying, and
Okay.
then if they see something that they like, then they'll schedule an in-person meeting. They'll come out see it, and then if they like it, they'll place their orders and things like that.
Okay.
So I'm living in fear, and playing the games with department stores can get very, very like it could take you out of business if you have the wrong setup.
Really?
And yeah, because department stores they reduce their liability almost to nothing. Where um, the stores that have a shop within the shop, where you see like the Gucci section inside of Saks, where they have their own employees. Saks they have to pay Saks for that store. They have to hire their own employees and train themselves, so
Mhm.
Saks is not responsible for that section of the store. And then once they sell the garments in Saks, they also obviously have to pay a certain percentage of their sales to Saks because they're inside of their store. So when you're selling your brand in a department store,
Uh-huh.
you're responsible for any markdowns, damages, returns, and discounts. They
Uh-huh.
take it out of the company's pay.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
I've seen like that looting situation
Yeah. I know.
it would have destroyed a little business like me.
Oh
So
my God.
I wouldn't have been able to bounce back from that. But I know they have different insurances and things like that, which I'm going to look into once I make that move to make sure that
Uh-huh.
I'm as protected as much as I possibly can be. And yeah, so entering department stores, that's the next stage for me, and then
Okay.
just continuing to tell this story of my new rebrand and get it into everybody's, get in front of their faces and in their heads the story of my brand. So
Yeah.
that's basically what I'm working on.
That's so cool. That is really, really cool. All right, so we're wrapping up, and one more question. What is like your mic drop advice for those who may be tuning in later, or we have one person that's listening in? Mic drop,
Mhm.
like what would that be?
For pursuing any entrepreneurial endeavor,
Yes.
mine is a little bit different from um, what you would typically hear, but I would say check yourself before you wreck yourself. And what I mean by that,
I love it. That's like my favorite saying. I love it.
it's not, it's pretty deep
Yeah.
because checking yourself, what I mean by that is looking at yourself internally, making sure that you are um, healed before
Mm,
you pursue anything entrepreneurial. Because if you have traumas that, and we all have our traumas, no one's innocent, no one's without no one's perfect.
right.
Everybody has it, but when you are able to identify those traumas and properly address them, you change completely a different
Mhm.
person. You're closer to who you actually are versus living through your experiences and how it affected you. And personally, this year I've addressed a lot of that, because not addressing your traumas will have you not understanding your self value or your self worth, not feeling like you're deserving of success, which we're all magnets. We attract everything, and if you don't feel like you're deserving, you're not going to attract that success to you, and it
Mhm.
may be destined to you for you, but
Mhm.
because you have these unresolved traumas in your life internally, you're unconsciously or subconsciously like pushing them away. So having imposter syndrome,
Mm.
not being able, or being self-sabotaging. So all these are like a few things that can come from unresolved traumas, and it's like you would never think like, wow, I'm messing up on, customers, or I'm not meeting my deadlines, and
Yeah.
I just for some reason can't get on schedule and get on track and do everything timely. And it's all because of those little traumas from when we were kids. And it's affecting
Mhm.
your entire adult life in this way. So, and when you resolve your traumas, you begin to know yourself better
Mhm.
and, accept yourself, and you can be your best version and go for something, without you yourself get in your own way.
Right.
And
Wow.
once when I addressed that, because I suffered from self sabotage and
Mhm.
a little bit of the imposter syndrome, not and definitely not feeling like I was deserving or worthy of what I
Wow.
was getting. So it
Mhm.
would be sometimes where I even charged somebody something, I would get scared. Like I would be shaking, my hand would be very nervous when I would be giving the customer the price. And in the beginning, that's what resulted in me like, I'm not going to say that. I'm gonna drop down 300. I'm gonna drop down 500.
Mm.
That's too much. And then in the end, I don't even have enough money to buy the fabric, so I have to go in my pocket, and it was my livelihood.
Yeah.
So that stuff, it can, if left unchecked, it will destroy you without a doubt.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's some
that
really, really, really good advice. Like the traumas will definitely, definitely show up in your business, the way that you do
hmm
business, the way that you flow,
hmm
how you scale, because you won't grow. Like it's
yeah,
just you'll end up saying yes to all sorts of bad business deals, um, because that fear, it can be there. Wow, that's some really, really good advice. Really good advice.
learning to
Ah,
myself.
good job, Delvin. Wow, that is so, so cool. I just want to say thank you. Today's conversation you are super amazing.
Thank you.
Just how grounded you are. Um, that is why the success is coming your way. You've checked
Mm,
yourself, right? So you've had the moments, you've learned from your mistakes, and you're not growing if you don't make mistakes, right? So I think that owning the mistakes and learning from them is something that as entrepreneurs, when you're a true entrepreneur, like you understand that. But being an entrepreneur is not for the faint at heart. I say that all the time.
at all, at all. And people,
So
there's a
yeah.
little misconception where it's like, I'm tired of working for someone else. I want to work for myself. I will say the one thing I do miss from working for people is that guaranteed check every 2 weeks, without
So
a doubt.
me
And
too. Look, me too.
you, it's
I
just
understand.
you
Yes.
go from working the set schedule 40 hours a week to 24/7 with your business until you have that team or have the capital to have that team to handle all the small
Yeah.
little things so you can focus on just creating or whatever it
Mhm.
is that you pursue. But yeah.
So can I ask you this? I know I said one question. Okay, so in terms of any sort of collabs, like who is your dream? Like who would you just love the opportunity to um
To work with,
mhm, from a design perspective? I don't even know if that's a thing in the design world. It is, right?
working with another designer.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. I would enjoy working with, even if it's just sitting in the workroom
Right.
while they're working on a garment. Alexander McQueen, Sarah Burton. I would like, that's my favorite design house on earth.
Wow.
I would like to sit in there and watch or
Mhm. Just
just
to be just
poke her brain.
yeah.
Hmm.
Wow, have you reached out? Have you
No, I haven't. Mm-mm. It's one of those things where, how do I put it? I would prefer to meet her as an equal
Okay.
than as someone that admires her.
Got it.
And then I would
Mm,
like we can when I feel that we can talk on the same level,
okay.
and the dialogue would be just very different,
Gotcha.
you know.
That makes total sense. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not mad at that response. That's some good stuff. That's awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Delvin. I appreciate your time today. The fact that I love that you are actually in your space where you work and where it all
Working all day.
happens. I love it. So yes, it has been a pleasure, talking to you, and thank you for your time. You are accessible, guys. He's so cool, like just super cool, accessible. I love that. Thank you for staying and remaining humble. That's kudos to your upbringing, and you know who you are, so that's super dope. So I think it's a wrap, actually. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners. I am your host,
But
April Patterson of Respectfully April. This is the lovely and amazing, super talented Delvin McCray. Delvin, if people want to reach out to you, and they want to, maybe I have a couple of people that did ask me to get in contact with you because they have some pieces that they like for you, for you to design for them. What's the
mhm.
best way to reach you?
The best way is to reach me on my Instagram at Delvin McCray, DelvinMccray, and you can contact my business through the business phone number or the email, or send in a direct message. So
Okay.
either one works.
Fantastic. And the business phone number is on your website?
It is on my website. It is on my Instagram page in the contact when you hit the contact button, and it's
Okay.
yes in the description too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So everybody just head over to Delvin's IG. Check him out at Delvin McCray. And that's it. I think that's a wrap. So you stay put. And thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next
Thank you so
week.
much for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you.